sports fans, and welcome to this week's episode of EBC Sports International. I'm your host, Zarita Sese, coming to you from Toronto, Canada. Thanks for joining us this week. So we hope that you're all doing well and that you're doing your part to stay safe during these interesting times. And we have a lot to talk about this week. And so I have two of my great friends here, only two of them though, to talk about some sports this week. So it's going to be a very, very intimate conversation. So I'm giving you two the green light to speak your mind. Like we said off air, speak like Ken would, okay? So first we have EJ Gonzalez from Alexandria, Virginia. EJ, are you going to be a Skip Bayless, Shannon Sharp, maybe Stephen A., Max Kellerman? What is it tonight?
What's up, guys? I think I'm probably going to be a Kendrick Perkins. It's like, I'll try my best. I'll try my best to be Stephen A. Smith. He's my idol.
Oh, I like that. Kendrick Perkins. That's a good one. And secondly, and lastly, we have Michael Hudson from Seattle, Washington. What's going on, Mike?
What's up, everybody? Tomorrow, NFL playoffs. Seahawks playing. Washington football team playing. Let's go.
Yes, lots to look forward to. But of course, before we get started, I just want to remind everybody who's watching, we are by no means experts. So please don't take our takes to the grave with you. We're just passionate fans that love sports. So before we get started and actually start our discussion, here are some updates from other sports news that made it this week. So let's start off with Mike. Let's see what you have about a potential new NBA team.
I sure do. Thanks, Z. Well, hey, I have exciting news for everybody, especially those NBA fans of the Seattle Supersonics. So the mayor of Seattle, Jenny Durkin, recently met with NBA Commissioner Adam Silver recently this week and basically stated that she left the meeting feeling very, and I quote, pretty optimistic about the idea of the Supersonics returning back to Seattle, which is amazing news for everybody. I mean, come on, guys. I don't want you to get too excited because there are still a lot of steps and hoops to jump through and things need to come together, but it's definitely some amazing news to hold on to because, Seattle hasn't had an NBA team since 2007. Can you believe it, guys? So I'll read a quote here from the mayor. It is very good news for the city of Seattle that they are thinking of an expansion team. And I was honest with him. He knows Seattle wants to be at the front of the line. We're where the team should be, but we will be respecting them as they move forward to their ownership because the owners, has to approve it. So Silver has wanted to expand the NBA for quite some time, but, due to the pandemic this year, he has to put those plans on temporary hold. And the last time the NBA had an expansion was back in 2002 when the Charlotte Bobcats were formed. I can already tell you that ever since the Sonics left and became the OKC Thunder, many NBA fans have not recovered, including myself. So this is really exciting news. And with the brand new arena that's being built for the new NHL team, as well as the Storm, the WNBA team, it's really going to expedite the process. So we will see what happens. Back to you, Z.
Thanks, Mike. That would be crazy because, like you said, so many Seattle Supersonic fans just to this day still talk about that team. So it would be great if that could happen. But moving on to some current NBA teams, what do you have for us, EJ?
Right. So over the past few days, the positive case count for COVID-19 in the NBA is seeing an increase. This week began with news of NBA superstar Kevin Durant having to complete a 7-day quarantine and sit out of 4 games of the Brooklyn Nets after recent exposure to someone who has tested positive for COVID-19. Durant had the virus back in May of 2020, but has tested negative in his most recent examinations. However, the superstar was still hindered to play because of the strict protocols put forth by the NBA before the season began. Now, throughout the week, the following players have tested positive for COVID-19. That's Chandler Hutchinson and Thomas Satoransky of the Chicago Bulls, Philadelphia 76ers Seth Curry, and then today the Boston Celtics announced Tristan Thompson and Robert and Grant Williams have tested positive for the virus. According to the health and safety guidelines of the league, the players must serve a mandatory self-isolation for a minimum of 7 days, beginning when these said players receive their positive results. The most controversial situation, though, it has to be for the 76ers. The team learned of Seth Curry's positive test during the game against Brooklyn. Curry was then immediately taken into isolation, left the arena in a separate vehicle, separate from the team. However, the entire Sixers team is now forced to undergo quarantine there in New York, and this morning they began the contact tracing process. So it is still unclear if the Sixers' scheduled games will be affected, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. But to help combat the spread, there was a new mandate for face coverings, which began Tuesday. Starting Tuesday, all NBA players who are present at the games have to wear face masks until they check into the game. After that, they're highly recommended to wear a face covering when they go back into the bench area. This rule also resets and is taken into effect again after the half is concluded. All coaching staff and inactive players present on the bench must wear their face coverings throughout the entirety of the game. So that's what's happening over there in the NBA. Back to you, Zarita.
Thanks, CJ. And unfortunately, you know what? This might be the new reality for the NBA because they're going to try to push through and play through during a pandemic. And I don't know if you guys are getting notifications about today. It was like a whole slew of Boston, Memphis, all these teams. So again, that just might be the new reality, right? So don't go anywhere. You're watching EBC Sports International. We're going to take a quick break.
Factual.
We have to defeat the virus everywhere.
Timely information. Balanced, not only in the country, but also abroad.
I'm certain of one thing.
Interviews that people need to know. Watch Aguila Pilipinas. A 1-hour newscast of reports coming from regional hubs in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Know the important updates in Asia in ASEAN in Focus. Track the latest stories in the provinces in Aguila Provincia. Tune into Mata ng Aguila, the evening primetime news program of Net25. Balanced and objective, Mata ng Aguila covers national and international issues, tackles news on business, health, science and technology, entertainment, sports and human interest features, and current events. And Eagle News International delivers the latest global reports, impartial, accessible, and up-to-date. It brings to fore EBC's rich international scope and access to valuable information streams.
Well, thank you to thank our help outdoor track.
Catch these programs on Net25. You can also watch our news programs through eaglenews.ph and Eagle News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Welcome back, everybody, and thanks for sticking with us. So, jumping right into our conversation. So we'll start off with our favorite topic, of course, basketball, the NBA. So we're just over 2 weeks into the NBA season, and Mike is very excited, clearly. And many can agree that it's been a bit of a bizarre start. So, for example, my beloved Raptors, it pains me to say this, are 14th, 1-6 in the Eastern Conference. It's crazy. And even more bizarre is the Phoenix Suns are sitting on top of the Western Conference with the reigning NBA champions in third. So not only is the seeding a little bit different than what we're normally used to, but for me at least, I told you guys this off air, I find that injuries are happening more frequently. So we'll start with you, Mike. Who has been the biggest surprise, good or bad, for you when it comes to the start of the NBA season?
You know, Zarina, that's a really good question. You know, based on what I've seen so far, I would say my biggest surprise, I'll start with the bad, I'll have to say the Denver Nuggets. I mean, these guys have just been struggling. I don't know what it is. I think it's probably a little bit of having the short short off season because they had such a grind during the playoffs in the bubble. They went further than I thought they were going to go. You know, they obviously upset the Clippers, played the Lakers pretty tough, but yeah, I really thought they were going to make some noise this year. I really thought they would be in the position of the Suns right now because they have a lot of firepower. They have Michael Porter Jr., who's definitely coming back from a back injury and just really elevating his game. And you have a Bobo as well. I don't even know why Bobo doesn't even get playing. Dude, 7'4", has like an 8-foot wingspan. He can handle, like, how does he not get playing time?
Right.
But yeah, I would say Denver definitely on the bad side. On the surprising side, yeah, I would have to agree with Phoenix. I had no clue they would be making this much noise right now. They're playing
like we talked about it, like they're gonna be good, but I think all of us can agree we didn't think it was gonna be this good.
Yeah, I didn't expect their defense to be nearly as good as I thought. So definitely them, and also I need to toss in Charlotte as well because the games that I've seen, I really think LaMelo Ball has really increased the game of everybody around him. He's done a lot better than I thought he would. But I would probably say those two have surprised me the most.
What about you, EJ?
Disappointing wise, it's got to be not Toronto or the Tampa Bay Raptors. For me personally, it has to be the Washington Wizards. Come on, man. I was so excited when they announced that Russell Westbrook was coming to Chocolate City here to play with the Wiz Kids. Man, I was just so excited. I really think, and Denny Avdia also I was really excited to see what this rookie could bring. Rui Hachimura had a pretty good season last year. I thought that they would be able to just come in, win the games. And honestly, I think their record is a lot worse than it should be. Their opening game against the Sixers was definitely a winnable game. They should have won that. And they played the Sixers just the other night, and they also should have won that one where Beal put up 60 points. Beal is a scoring machine, and Russell Westbrook is still putting up triple-doubles. I don't know what's wrong with the Wizards right now. Honestly, when I look on Twitter, all the Wizards fans are saying, fire Scott Brooks, but that's one of the main reasons I think that Russell Westbrook is actually excited to come to this team, like to be reunited with Scott Brooks. And obviously, Russell Westbrook has a strong personality, and one of those who can manage it is Scott Brooks. So I don't know if Scott Brooks is the problem. I mean, I think his rotations are the problem. And again, like we were talking about it just seems like a lot of players are missing games for unforeseen incidences. And I think that's the reason why these rotations are so wonky, that the records are showing the way that they are, that these teams are surprisingly lower than they should be, and some teams that are higher than they should be. You guys said the Phoenix Suns was a surprise to be. I'm not surprised that they're at this spot. Chris Paul is a leader. He's a facilitator. This guy proved it last year with OKC, who Vegas experts, all the odds were against them to even make it into the playoffs, let alone be not on the bottom of the Western Conference, and yet they were able to prove them wrong, and that was mainly because of Chris Paul. So, I mean, it just goes to show you that Chris Paul is just one of the best players still in the NBA, one of the better leaders, and he can really teach a young team like the Phoenix Suns. And the Denver Nuggets, though, you said, Mike, you were surprised. I think the main reason they're not doing well is because they lose Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant is such an underrated player. He was also one of their energy guys, right? And he could defend, he's long, and he's honestly showing that he could score the basketball, and he proved that in the playoffs last year. And he was a pivotal role in that playoff team, in that success. Losing him, I think, is a main reason. But honestly, the biggest surprise for me has to be the Orlando Magic. Second in the Eastern Conference, 6-2.
That's about Fultz,
I mean, yes.
Oh yeah, that's heartbreaking.
And then they lose Fultz. Yes, but it's awesome. It was awesome to see that this first round pick, the number one overall pick, just a few seasons ago, who people were so surprised that he got picked over Jason Tatum LaMelo Ball. I think they were all in the same draft class. But he's showing that he has that athleticism and could score the rock, and it's just so unfortunate that he had to suffer that injury. But Orlando is a surprising one of the surprising teams. Oh, and the new right.
We blew out Miami like crazy the first game. By like 20-30 or something like that.
And Miami's not doing as well as we thought they would be doing.
That's another surprise,
Yeah, but I think the biggest surprise, Brooklyn Nets. Everyone said that they're going to be the top, and right now, who's above them? The New York Knicks. So it looks like the Knicks are still the team in New York, as of right now, anyway. As of right now, the Knicks are still the team in New York.
Oh my gosh. So speaking of the Knicks, so right now, I love to do this. If playoffs were to start today, 2 weeks into the season, New York Knicks, Golden State Warriors, and the Kings would be in the playoffs.
Oh.
So, Mike, do you think this is a funny question? Do you think the current standing right now for either conference is a good reflection of what we'll see come like a month or two down the road?
No, I mean, no. I mean, there's no. I mean, you have so many veteran teams in there. Like the Lakers, for example, are going to make a run. The Clippers are going to make a run. I mean, once these guys, get into the groove, I think they're going to start making some noise. But those three teams you mentioned, the Warriors, Sacramento, and New York. I think the Warriors. I feel like they're starting to gel. That new kind of ball. They're playing a lot more pick and roll, not shooting threes as much, but they're playing a lot of pick and roll with Curry and Draymond. Wiseman's playing pretty decent as well. I think that team is going to be a dark horse. I mean, I can definitely see them making the playoffs. Obviously, not the second or third seed. But I see them making the playoffs. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, these veteran teams are going to make a run. I mean, they have probably 65 more games to play. Anything can happen. And usually you don't see them make their stride until after the All-Star break. So
yeah. See, I want to believe you, Mike. I do. I really do. But with this compressed season, it's 2 weeks.
Yeah.
They've already played 11 games or so. I'm just sweating for my Raptors who are running out of time. So I hope just give me one more W at least. So it's definitely way too early to talk about postseason for sure. But here we love to make way too early predictions on the show. So I want to ask you guys, EJ, let's start with you. Bradley Beal is carrying his team like we talked about earlier. Steph Curry just had 62-point game, looking like a real MVP candidate. So right now, based on what you're seeing, who looks like they could make a run for MVP?
Man, so I remember a couple episodes ago, we were talking about the front runner, or the Vegas experts were all saying that Luka Doncic is going to win MVP. And he was playing some pretty underwhelming basketball in the first few games. I remember, I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but there was a meme out there where JaVale McGee had more three-pointers made than Luka Doncic by the third game of the season. And that's surprising because Luka Doncic is a guy who could score the basketball on ridiculous step backs from deep. And for him to play the way he was playing was kind of disappointing. However, he's turned the script around and he's been playing some phenomenal basketball. Over the last 3 games, he's averaging a triple-double. And that includes 30 points per game within those last 30 games, or at least close to 30 points per game. On top of that, they're getting Porzingis back by next week. So I think that's all the more going to help out Luka Doncic's case. Although I was not an advocate of him winning, I don't think he is. It would be awesome if Beal won, but the Wizards have to win more games. They can't keep losing these close games. Now at a record of 2-7, the only way he's going to get MVP, and deservedly if they start winning, racking up those wins. However, for me, the one who's been the most impressive with a winning team right now is the Boston Celtics, Jason Tatum. The guy
I was just going to say
got paid big this offseason, and he is showing everyone why he earned that money. I mean, ever since he got into the league, he's been a star, and it seems like his game just elevates more and more, and he's so smooth. I love the way he plays, man. Yeah. Jason Tatum is that guy. I think he's the front runner to me for MVP right now. And that's, going against the narrative of Doncic, because I think the media is just trying to feed that to the eyes of the people. But on the court, Jason Tatum is showing why he got that money, and I think he can be a front runner for MVP this year.
Yeah, I was just going to say Jason Tatum. I feel like he's so under the radar because, like you said, there's so many eyes on other teams. But Mike, for you, who would you say is looking like an MVP right now?
Man, I mean, just to harken back a little bit with Bradley Beal, if he does not make an All-NBA team this year, dude, it's going to be an outrage. I mean, I thought last year he should have easily made one of the but so
or at least the All-Star game.
All-Star. Yeah.
Total snub.
Right.
But to answer your question, Z, for me, I mean, obviously the season started with KD, right? I mean, I felt like KD was just back on a mission. With him being out, obviously that hurts his case. I know he's won 2 MVPs already, but Steph is just, I feel like he's been playing a really good ball. I mean, he scored 62 a few nights ago. Granted, he didn't play too well the night before. I think it was Wednesday when they played against the Clippers.
Yeah.
They just shut him down. But granted that he doesn't have his splash brother there, doesn't really have help offensively. He's playing defense. He's basically guarding like the best point guards on the other team. He's still shooting a decent percentage. He's averaging 30 points a game. I mean, I feel like I know it's still early, but I feel like he's playing pretty good ball. I mean, I expected him to carry his team, especially with him being so short-handed, but I didn't expect him to drop 62, a career high, like this early in the season. So I would say Steph is up there. I want to say Bradley Beal, but it's just, gosh, I just wish he was on a better team, or I wish he had better teammates around him. At least. I don't think that.
Or playing winning basketball.
I think that's the biggest thing is they have to win. As much as he can put up these numbers, if they're not even in, what standing are they in now? What seeding are they in?
They are currently 13th.
Okay, so they at least top 8 for him to be considered a real contender for MVP. But what about Giannis? Defensive player of the year and MVP. I think they're so lackluster this year as an organization. I feel like they failed the offseason. So what do you guys think about Giannis's game right now? Does he even have a chance to make it, that back to back?
I mean, I don't think so. I don't even think he should have won last year. I thought it was all LeBron. I thought LeBron should have won last year. For me, it comes down to being able to do everything on the court. I mean, I feel like he's a lackluster outside shooter at best. He's phenomenal taking the ball to the rim. And for me personally, I always thought that the MVP should be awarded at the very end of the season, because when it came to playoff time, the dude absolutely got shut down. I mean, Miami just put up a wall. They were saying, okay, either you shoot a jumper or you're going to have to drive through us and score. And that just totally shut him down. And he was just a totally different player. I felt like he was exposed a little bit. But to answer your question, I don't think he's going to win back to back this year. I'd be surprised if he did.
Well, for me, if he does have a winning record still after losing the players that the Bucks did lose, I think that he does make a good case that he should be MVP because he's carrying a much bigger load after losing, Eric Bledsoe and Wesley Matthews, guys of that caliber. And then he has to he's the main guy in the Bucks. And as long as their season is on, say, top 3 in the East, I think he deserves a case, especially with Kevin Durant back in the East and playing. So I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think he deserved Defensive Player of the Year or MVP last year. Like Mike said, I think LeBron definitely, he stole it from LeBron. I think LeBron needs to be considered a lot more times than we do because I think we take him for granted. But if the Bucks do get the top seed again in the East, then I can see the case for Giannis winning back-to-back MVPs.
So just thinking about kind of where the teams are at, especially KD right now. So let's say he's having a great season, but he's missing a good chunk of the season, but it's because of COVID. Let's put it like a scenario out there. Is he an MVP for you?
Well, it depends on how many. It depends on how much he puts up while he's present on the floor. He can't control what what happens off the floor, obviously with the whole pandemic. But if he's putting up the numbers that we're used to seeing from him, then I think he proves a case. And I think it's going to be like that for any MVP candidate this year.
Yeah.
It's their availability on the floor.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, like I said, it's way too early to make any sort of predictions about MVPs, postseason, anything like that. But I will remember your guys' takes so that when it comes time to make you accountable, I can echo you about your choices. So before we go on with more NBA talk, we're going to take a quick break. You're watching EBC Sports International. We'll be right back.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business every Saturday from 5 to 6 p.m. Open for Business, from vision to action.
Turuan din natin ang mga bata ng tamang paghugas ng mga kamay. Basain ang kamay ng tubig at lagyan ng sabon. Kuskusin ang iyong mga palad. Gayon din ang pagitan ng mga daliri. Pati na ang likod ng mga palad at daliri. Ganon din ang iyong hinlalaki, kasama ang mga dulo ng iyong mga daliri. Pagkatapos ay iyong palapulsuhan. Gawin ito ng kahit 20 segundo. Pagkatapos ay banlawan ng tubig at patuyuin.
Welcome back to EBC Sports International. I'm your host, Zarita Sese. Thanks for sticking around. So continuing on with our NBA talk, a team that always has the attention of the media are, of course, the Brooklyn Nets. So as of right now, the team is 7th in the Eastern Conference and going 5 wins, 4 losses so far. The Nets have been blowing out teams like the Celtics, the Warriors, Jazz, and the 76ers. They're blowing them out of the water, essentially. But at the same time, the 4 games that they have lost are against the Hawks, the Grizzlies, the Wizards, sorry, EJ, and the Hornets. So on top of all of that, like EJ reported earlier, there are several players from the Nets to miss more games because of the recent COVID outbreak between the 76ers and the Nets. So EJ, let's start with you. Why do you think this team has been so inconsistent?
Well, first off, you don't have to be sorry about the Wizards beating the Nets. Come on, man. I am proud of the Wizards for beating the Brooklyn Nets.
What's that?
That's
like one only win?
No, that's 1 out of their 2 total wins. And hey, but it came from the team that's the favorite to come out of the East. So honestly, don't know how they won that game though. For some reason, they were able to hang with the Nets the entire game. The Nets had the final possession to win against us. And both Durant and Kyrie had great looks with the final shot, but the ball just didn't go in the hoop. So we lucked out. We won by 1. But, you know, the Wizards are second to last in the East, which is disappointing. But I digress.
Should be last.
Right. So if the Raptors find a way to win tonight, then we would be, unfortunately, last. But I think the Nets are inconsistent because the rotation has been so jumbled with the unforeseen circumstances, right? First of all, it's a big blow to lose Spencer Dinwiddie for this season. He is a pivotal part of the team, and instead the Nets have to go this season without him. Then on top of that, Durant had to miss 4 games because of COVID protocols that he didn't even test positive for, and he still needed to quarantine. So that was unfortunate. And now Kyrie, he hasn't been with the team because of personal reasons. We don't know what those reasons are. The games we saw with the lineup complete, they look like an unstoppable team. They look like they could take anybody. Like you said, you mentioned the Celtics, the Sixers who are now atop of the Eastern Conference. They were able to stomp them out. But I think their record is the way that it is right now because they haven't been able to rely on the availability of everyone on their roster. Steve Nash is probably still trying to figure out the rotations, but again, because of the circumstances, he hasn't been able to find a consistent one. So the only thing is, if Durant and Kyrie are both on the floor, they're both healthy, they're both available, every game is a winnable game for the Nets. So it all depends on whether or not they'd be able to show up on the floor. And right now, neither of them is on the floor. And when KD is scheduled to return back this coming Saturday to play against his former team, the Oklahoma City Thunder, if he passes again the examinations for COVID, then he would be cleared to play. But we don't know what the situation is with Kyrie, so we'll have to wait and see. But I think that's the reason why the Nets are inconsistent right now, is just because of everyone's availability.
No, for sure. I totally agree. Mike, what about you? What do you think it is about the Nets? Even though they're as talented as they are, why do they have a 5-4 record?
I think it's a little bit of everything. I mean, for me personally, I think ever since KD got dunked on by one game, they have not been the same.
Oh, that was nasty.
I felt like that was like such a psychological blow to that happened. I'm just putting it out there. But I think it's a mixture of everything. I think one, it's kind of like KD hasn't played in 600 plus game or 500 plus days. So he's still trying to get reacclimated. Kyrie's missed a lot of time, and he's just acting kind of weird. I don't know what's going on in that guy's head. It's just I have no idea what's going on. And then you had the Spencer Dinwiddie injury, as EJ said. And then you also have the head coach. I think Steve Nash, his nature is he's just always been that type of personality where he's like a little passive. He's not the type of guy that's going to be in your face and like what, the late Kobe Bryant did. He'd get in people's faces and be like, dude, you have to step up your game. I don't really see Steve Nash doing that. Maybe D'Antoni, but definitely not Steve Nash. So I think it's a little bit of everything. It's just, all great teams are going to go through adverse times. It happened to the Miami Heat when Wade, Bosh, and LeBron got together. It happened when LeBron went to the Lakers. The first couple of years didn't go well. It happens to all the great teams. And, we're just going to have to see how they're going to define themselves bouncing back from that adversity. But I think this is a big opportunity for the second unit and the rest of the guys to gel and step up. As they say in sports, when the main guys are out, the next guy up has to step up. So I think they're really going to have to just pull it together somehow and make it work, because when it gets to the playoffs, there's going to be times where Durant and Kyrie won't be on the court at the same time. So they're really going to have to adjust and get used to that and try and make the best of when one of them's not on there.
Right. I didn't even think about that. Right. Like, I think there's a lot of teams right now who are managing their star players. They're not playing them in back-to-backs. Right. I think one of those is Russell Westbrook. So every time the Wizards have a back-to-back, Russell Westbrook misses one of those games. I didn't even factor that. I'm pretty sure they're going to be trying to take care of the health of Durant and Kyrie. So during those back-to-backs, they're not going to have both of them on the floor. I think if just one of them is on the floor, they're a vulnerable team. But the two of them on the floor, I think then every game is winnable, like I said earlier. But I didn't even think of that because of all the other situations that's been going on. With COVID and the personal reasons and stuff. It's just, we gotta we got to make sure that all of them are on the floor. I think that's the only way we're going to see them be successful.
No, for sure. And I think already Nash has so much to deal with, but then trying to figure out creative ways to get the most out of his lineup. But one thing we do have to remember is Brooklyn, without Katie and Kyrie, was a decent team. Like, they went, you know, mind you, they got swept in the playoffs, but they're essentially could be a starting lineup for another team. And I think a lot of people forget just how good their young guys are. Again, it sucks that Spencer Dinwiddie's out, but for sure there's they have the talent, no doubt. So aside from the inconsistencies, it was confirmed today, like you guys were talking about, that next star Kyrie Irving will miss a second consecutive game against the Grizzlies due to personal reasons. So Irving had already missed Thursday's game, which I should add was a nationally televised game. And as you guys know, NBA frowns upon any of their star players sitting out for whatever reason. But Coach Steve Nash said that he wasn't sure why his star point guard wasn't available. But his teammates has reassured everybody that they've spoken to him, that they're in support of his absence. So Mike, I'm not going to ask you why you think he's missing, but is this a good sign that his own head coach doesn't know why he's available, like he's not there for the team?
Yeah, it is a bad sign in my opinion, because I mean, and it's kind of surprising too, because, you know, like I said before, even though Steve Nash is a little bit of a passive guy, he's not going to be in your face. He was an amazing teammate. I mean, I felt like he was a great leader in his own right. I felt like he got along with a lot of his teammates, and all of his past teammates say great things about him. So I kind of find it surprising that, you know, if he is telling the truth, I'm assuming he's telling the truth, that he doesn't know Kyrie's whereabouts. At the same time, I mean, we all know. Let's be real. Kyrie's tough. He's a tough guy to manage, right? I mean, he has his issues. I don't know what's going on now. I hope everything's fine. But to answer your question, I think with Nash, I think he just has to focus on the team with what he has now. I mean, given Kyrie's history of getting injured and his drama that goes on, he really has to focus on winning now, because, you know, the NBA, a lot of the owners, they want to win right now. And with that roster, there should be no excuse for them to not get far. So.
No, for sure. So, EJ, I want to ask you, I know, Kyrie Irving's star power. Is it enough for this to be tolerable? Is this something that you're like, you know what, it's Kyrie being Kyrie, like we've always said on the show. Is it something you're just like, it's something you deal with?
I think so. But, I don't know what it's like to be a celebrity. I'm pretty sure being under that spotlight for 24/7, maybe there's just some things you want to keep personal. You don't want to, let everybody know what the problem is. And again, we hope everything's all right with Kyrie. But when he is on the court, he's that guy. He's able to take over games. He's able to make clutch shots. He's kind of, I say we could compare him like James Harden. We've been talking about James Harden and his actions, and those are like, just blatantly I don't care what anybody thinks. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do what I want to do. Kyrie's had moments like that, but in this situation, I mean, we don't know why he's not available. But if it's a personal reason and people are, like you reported, are in support of the reason why he is missing a game, then I think it's tolerable, definitely, because we know that how valuable he is to the franchise. We know how valuable of a player he will be in winning a championship with this team, with Kevin Durant. I don't think they could do it without Kyrie. It's kind of one of the things you do have to deal with. Kyrie has a strong personality, like we know. But, hopefully everything's okay with him, it's nothing serious. But if it is, and he wants to keep it private, I think that's totally his right to do so.
No, absolutely. And again, I don't want to speculate of what's going on. Again, we hope that he's okay. But part of me, knowing what Kyrie stands for, I feel like the timing wise, it could be about what's going on in Washington or what happened in Washington. I think a lot of players didn't know how to not participate in basketball without just completely sitting out. So just knowing who Kyrie is and how involved he is with that kind of thing, Again, I don't want to speculate, but part of me feels like maybe there's just his head's not in basketball, which is totally understandable. And it also goes back to his comments about not needing a coach. Maybe that's why he didn't tell Steve Nash. I don't know. But again, all speculation. But now we're going to switch gears completely to the NFL. So Houston Texans star Deshaun Watson has asked for a trade, or there's speculation that he wants a trade. So it was reported by NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport that Watson was extremely unhappy with his team for not involving him in the hire of their GM, Nick, this is where I'm going to mess up the name, Caserio, where the Oh, did I? Okay. I YouTube that. Where the Texans may have gone wrong here is that the owner told Watson that they would go to him for feedback about candidates of who they want to hire. But apparently that didn't happen. So he found out through, like all of us find out sports news, through Twitter. Watson tweeted out a very cryptic tweet that has now since been deleted last week, saying some things never change. Dun, dun, dun. So naturally, with any rift between players and organizations that are as public as this, the trade rumors begin. So Mike, given the track record of this organization already with Watson, does he have grounds to want a trade?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, dude, he was surrounded easily. I'm sorry to be harsh here, but the worst GM and head coach ever. They made the worst decisions. Okay, the one that's just going to is probably the most abominable is when he traded DeAndre Hopkins, a top 3 wide receiver, to the Arizona Cardinals for David Johnson, a running back. Are you kidding me?
And that's Watson's boy, right?
And you take away his number one weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, he got the big contract, which he deserves. I mean, he's absolutely incredible. He's doing so much with nothing, basically. And they just keep taking away weapons from him. I just don't get it. So yeah, he does deserve to request a trade. I really hope he goes to a contender, because he's one of those players where he deserves to at least win, at least have an opportunity to win. Granted, they made the playoffs. I believe it was 2 years ago, the last time they went. No, actually last year they made the playoffs and they almost beat the Chiefs. They're up big at the first half, got blown out the second half. But yeah, I mean, I think with him being surrounded by actual weapons and a great leadership organization, he's going to do wonders. I really think that, for me personally, I think the 49ers are in the hunt, as well as the Patriots. I think those would be 2 really strong organizations, because obviously Patriots with their pedigree, they're used to winning, and the 49ers are committed to winning. So I think those 2 organizations would be a really good fit.
So what about you, EJ? Like Mike was saying, this is such a generational player. The caliber of which his talent is, a lot of people are saying they're not going to get back the same or equal value for him. So as Houston, what are you looking for when you're looking for a trade for this guy?
Man, I wouldn't be surprised if Houston is looking for a bag of chips. They traded DeAndre Hopkins for basically anyone, right? So, do you think that they're going to be strategic? I mean, obviously, if you're an organization, you know what you have. You definitely want the best assets you can get for that, right? Whether it is another player to take that place, or if it's some help for the future. But I mean, with the track record with DeAndre Hopkins, I wouldn't be surprised if Houston finds a way to mess that up. I mean, everything's going bad in Houston with the Rockets and James Harden, and here we are with Deshaun Watson. I mean, come on. I mean, Houston has some problems, definitely, with their sports teams. They have the problems with the sports teams, but yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're an organization who's in your right frame of mind, you're going to want to have the best assets you can get out of that. So again, like you said, Deshaun Watson is such a transcendent talent. He would be a pivotal piece to anybody trying to compete in the NFL right now, because everybody knows you're just as good as your quarterback is, pretty much, right? Of course, I'll give you my take for who I think Watson should go to in a couple minutes.
So, Mike, what about you? I know, like you were saying, again, he's such a talented player. What are you looking for? Like, what would be essential pieces to the trade for you to be like, okay, fine. Minus the fact that they probably will bobble this trade. But as a competent organization, what would you look for this guy?
Well, I mean, I think the only logical choice if I were Houston is to trade for the number 1 pick. I mean, I think the Jaguars would probably do that. Because, you have Trevor Lawrence, who's basically a lock unless Justin Fields plays really well in the championship game Monday. I think Trevor Lawrence shows a lot of promise, and I think logically speaking, that would probably be the best choice for them to take on. I think, I don't know. I just feel so bad. I feel so bad for Deshaun because I cannot imagine what he's going through, especially after that miserable trade. But I think that's probably the best choice.
Yeah,
get him out of there.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think part of the organization thought, you know what, we gave him all this money. That should be enough for him to kind of just go with whatever we're going with. But I don't know if that's enough, right? So we'll see. So we're going to continue on with our NFL talk. Like Mike said, postseason of the NFL is starting. So we're going to get our panel's take on some matchups. So we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Hindi mo ba alam, mauubos daw ang mga tissue products? Bakit naman? Ang raw materials daw ng mask at tissue products ay iisa lang. Saan naman galing ang balitang yan? Ay basta, narinig ko lang din. Maraming dilim kayang nagpo-post sa Facebook at Twitter, kaya kung ako sa'yo, pumuha ka na din. Sige na't mauna na ako sa'yo
Huwag basta-basta magpaniwala
sa mga nakikita
o nababasa sa social media.
Magsaliksik at i-verify ang lahat ng impormasyon
nakukuha sa internet.
Tandaan,
maging responsable tayo
sa paggamit ng social media
nang hindi magdulot ng panic sa iba.
Kung paanong dapat labanan ng COVID-19
ay gayon din ang ating pagsugpo
sa black propaganda
at maling impormasyon.
Dennis Lu,
Lou Amelda,
Vivian Alpartosa,
Tyranel Pililu,
Hannibal Arevalo,
EBC,
Japan, Euro. We live in interesting times.
Ang ating Quarter 1 champions ay walang iba kundi ang The Sirens! Abot kamay na ng The Sirens ang kampyonato at ang pinaka-aasam na 2 million peso grand prize as they dance their way to victory last Sunday sa ating Quarter 1 semifinals. At ngayon naman ay ipagpapatuloy natin ang ating search para sa susunod na idol sa sayawan as we open yet again our weekly qualifiers.
Welcome back, EBC. Welcome back, sports fans, to EBC Sports International. I'm your host, Sarita Sese. So continuing on with some NFL talk. So my husband reminded me today that it's actually, Mike, it's Blue Friday. Is that right?
Oh, every Friday.
Right? Oh, every Friday. Okay. Which only means one thing, and that's NFL playoff is set to start as of this weekend. So right now, Mike's team is the Seahawks will face Ken's team, the Rams. EJ's team, Washington football team, is set to face the Buccaneers. I had a little segment from Mark there because his team wasn't going to make it, but he didn't make it today. So, Mike, of the teams that has made the playoffs, are there any surprises to you right now?
Surprises as in, I'm assuming you're saying
like who made the playoffs?
Oh, to make the playoffs, man.
Yeah.
That's a good question. Looking at it, honestly, no. I mean, I feel like every team deserved to make it. I mean, when it came to the NFC least, like I felt like Washington was by far the best team. It was just they kind of had that. You kind of had that little snag because of those injuries when they missed. When they had Antonio Brown and then the quarterback was missing for a couple weeks. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like all the teams that made it should have made it. Obviously, I don't want the Rams to be there because I don't like them at all. But yeah, they deserve to be there.
What about you, EJ? Any surprises aside from your Washington team doing as well as they did? Any surprises?
Honestly, I think it's the Bills. The Bills just had like such a great season, and I don't know if anybody really saw that coming that quickly with Josh Allen, right, their quarterback, who's been an MVP candidate, honestly, this season. So I think that biggest surprise that they made it this high up on the list, I think, has to be the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, no, for sure. I had the same thing. The Bills, for sure, making the playoffs was a surprise to me. Mind you, again, I don't watch much football, so I'll admit that anything is a surprise. So in terms of upsets, so in looking at the matchups here, guys, any upsets that you're seeing from the 6 games that are going to take place, anything from you, Mike, that you think might be a surprise in terms of results?
I have 2. I have the Ravens beating the Bills, because I think that is a very, very bad match. And actually, no, I'm sorry. It's Ravens beating the Titans.
Yes, the Titans.
Yep. That is a very bad matchup for the Titans because their defense is not as good as it was last year. I think Baltimore is hitting a stride now. Their momentum heading into the playoffs is crazy. They're not going to have the 3 weeks off like they did last year. So they're going to carry that momentum into tomorrow. I think they're going to upset the Titans. And my second upset is going to be, actually I have 3. So my next one, I want the Browns. The Browns are going to beat the Steelers. Mark my words. Even though they are shorthanded, they are going to deliver. I'm telling you, the Browns are mad. They are motivated, and they are going to make some noise. And then my third pick is going to be, rattle the alarms, the Chicago Bears over the New Orleans Saints.
Wow.
So, reason being, the Saints have underachieved the past few years in the playoffs. They got upset last year by the Minnesota Vikings because they totally shut down the run game. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Kamara is not playing tomorrow because of the COVID protocol, if I'm not mistaken. So if that's true, they're going to have a very tough time running the ball because Chicago has a very stout defense. Trubisky has been playing decent the past 2 or 3 weeks, and it's going to be a very close game.
Interesting. That's some hot takes there, Mike. EJ, what about you? Any surprises or any upsets that you're hoping for?
This is the hottest take right now. The Washington football team will upset the Bucks, man. You already know, man. Let me remind everybody, Tom Brady against NFC East teams in the playoffs is 1-3. He's lost 3 times to the NFC East division. The Giants were able to beat the Brady Patriots because they forced them to become mobile. That is an Achilles heel for Tom Brady. That is an Achilles heel for I am. He's the greatest quarterback to ever do it, but he did lose 3 times to the NFC East. And the reason why he lost twice to the Giants is because they forced them to become mobile. Washington's strength is their front 4 on that defensive side. So, we're playing in Washington, and although there will be no fans over there, it's a lot colder over here than in Tampa. And I'm not sure if Tom still remembers how to play in cold temperatures after enjoying that weather over there in Florida, man. But all jokes aside, obviously the favorite in the matchup are the Bucks. But I am going to speak it into existence. The Washington football team, is going to beat the Buccaneers this coming weekend for the upset.
Oh, man.
Hot take.
Oh. You might eat your words, DJ. Next week's episode,
hey, man,
I'll come after you.
If I eat my words, we're a 7-9 team. Who's going to be upset, all right? I mean, nobody's going to be upset except me. But if we win against the Bucks, I think, and again, I think it's doable because Tom Brady has proven that if he's being forced to move around in that pocket, things are really going to be shaken up for him. He's a type of quarterback who needs to get rid of the ball quickly. He has all the offensive weapons in his arsenal, but if we're forcing him to make some scared decisions over there, I think Chase Young just needs to hit him once, just let him feel it one time, and then he starts getting that fear inside of him. I think that's the only way Washington wins, is that if that defensive, that front four for Washington shows up.
Interesting. So I'm going to fire off the matchups. You guys tell me really quickly, no explanation needed, who wins, okay? Mm-hmm. Bills and Colts, who wins?
Bills.
Okay. Buccaneers, Washington. I know what your take is.
Washington!
Brady.
Okay. Bears, Saints. Mike, I know you said Bears. EJ?
I'm going to go with the Saints.
Rams, Seahawks. I already know this one.
Oh, come on.
The Seahawks. Jared Goff is a horrible. I don't even know who their starting quarterback is anymore.
Ravens, Titans.
Ravens.
I like the Ravens as well.
And Browns, Steelers.
Browns.
As much as I don't like the Steelers, I think I have to go with the Steelers just because the Browns are undermanned and without their head coach this coming weekend.
Interesting. So it's crazy to think that NFL actually made it this far, considering how much we questioned if they would even get to the playoffs. So it wouldn't be an EBC episode without the question of the week. So to end the show, my question for you two is, what is the sporting event or sporting venue that's on your bucket list? So I'll go first. For me, it would either be a game-deciding World Series. Oh man, that would be so exciting, at Fenway or at Dodger Stadium. That's like top tier for me. Or Seahawks game in Lumen Field. Playoff would be great, but just a Seahawks game. So my husband and I are working on that. We were supposed to go, but COVID happened. So EJ, let's start with you. What's on your bucket list?
Oh my gosh, I don't know when's the last time any Washington team has made it to the finals in a major sports. Well, the Nats, actually. That was awesome. You guys won the World Series recently. Right. Well, as far as the Washington football team and Wizards, they haven't been there in a long time. If any of them get to the finals, that is definitely on my bucket list. That's going to be a lot of money, but on my bucket list for sure.
What about you, Mike?
It would have to be a game at Madison Square Garden. That's one place I always want to watch a basketball game, like the Mecca. Like even if I can jump in a time machine and watch like the old like 92 Bulls against the Knicks. Oh man, that would be great. Well,
that's a great
keep that in mind. Yeah, I'll keep that in mind for you guys. If you're lucky enough for me to buy you those tickets one day, I'll definitely do
Oh yeah, don't forget us.
So that's actually all the time that we have for this week's edition of EBC Sports International. On behalf of all three of us, thank you so much for joining us this week, and be sure to tune in next week. Make sure to visit our website at eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com. Like us on Facebook, and of course, follow us on Twitter at EagleNewsPH to join the conversation. From Toronto, Canada, I'm Zarita Sese. This is EBC Sports International. We live in interesting times.
Yeah, we gonna go up. Ibibigay ko ang aking puso. Iyong tingin pa lang ako'y natunaw na mga...
Enjoy listening to your OPM requests as we play them on air and online, from music videos
Sana tayo ng dalawa.
to entertaining live and home performances of your favorite OPM artists.
I believe in love. I believe in you. Pangarap ko ay ang pangarap mo.
Watch on air and online anywhere you go around the world.
I love the way she makes me smile, she makes me smirk. Yes, sir. It gives me chills, it makes me blush, it gives me worth.
Mag-hashtag soundtrip and chill kasama ang barkada ng letters and music. Mapapanood na tuwing Sabado at Linggo. Simula January 9, 1 p.m. only on Net 25.